Welcome, everyone, brothers and sisters online as well. Welcome back. This week, inshallah, I'm going to read a chapter from İşaretül İcaz. This is from the Risales as well, but it's not from the letters. You might remember we finished the first letter last week. The second letter is more of a sort of Üstad Bediüzzaman Said Nursi's private thoughts, It begins with why I don't accept gifts. So I thought this might be more relevant. This is İşaretül İcaz. It means miraculous signs. That's the name of the book, İşaretül İcaz. It's a very interesting book. Many arguments are very squeezed in this book. Like Asay-ı Musa, it has another book. It's called Asay-ı Musa. They're very different books. You can take like one paragraph and explain it for hours and hours. That's the way those books are. So, as I said before, Risale-i Nurs are interpretations of the Quran. They are like tafsir. And today, I want to read a section where he explains what the Quran is. How do we define what Quran is? Inshallah, we're going to look at that. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Quran, Holy Quran, is the pre-eternal translator of the mighty book. Let me just remove this. Mighty book of the universe. So he's saying the Quran is the pre-eternal translator because it's the Kalamullah, we say, the words of Allah. And Kalam is a sifat of Allah, an attribute of Allah, meaning that it is beginningless and endless. It's an attribute belonging to Allah. It is not something that had a beginning. But when we talk about the Quran, the way it was revealed in Arabic, as you know. There are two types of kalam. Kalam means speech. And there are two types of speech of God. One we call kalam nefsi, the other one we call kalam lafsi. Kalam nefsi is the internal speech of Allah. And internal speech is one of the attributes which is infinite. But kalam lafsi is kalam nefsi being translated in kalam lafsi. It means verbal speech, kalam lafsi. And that is the way the speech of Allah is revealed to human beings. Because if it was revealed in its original form, no one would understand it. It is the internal speech of Allah. It needs to be revealed in the language of the society that it's revealed to. And that is why, for example, the Torah, the Hebrew book, when it was revealed in Hebrew, in their language, to Musa alayhi salam, Moses, Beni Israel, I should say. And the Bible, the Gospels, was revealed in, Brother Sean? Aramaic. Aramaic. Some people think in Greek, but that was written in Greek later on. The Bible was written in, earliest Bibles are written in Greek, but the language that it was revealed in was Aramaic to Isa alayhi salam, because that is the language that the community spoke. And if you listen to Aramaic, it sounds like Arabic a lot, both Hebrew and Arabic. And Isa alayhi salam, like for example, when he lived, he wasn't called Jesus, he was called Isa in Aramaic. That's what people called him, Isa. And he called the Creator Allah. That's the term he used, Isa alayhi salam himself. Rabbi, Allah. That's the terms he used. So that was Aramaic. It means that Allah's kalam is being revealed to human beings depending on the society which it's revealed to. There are arguments now. Some people say, why was the Quran revealed in Arabic? And I said to them, what was it going to be revealed in Japanese? It's being revealed to an Arab society first, to the Prophet. So it has to be revealed in that language so they can understand it. But if the Prophet was born, for example, in Russia, the Quran would have been Russian then. Because the language which these scriptures are revealed in this divine revelation is not the language, actual language of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah does not need a language. He doesn't need alphabet. He doesn't need words to speak. He doesn't need sounds to express himself. So they are revealed to prophets whom live in certain societies, and they are revealed in the language of those societies. So Quran was revealed in Arabic for that reason. But there is something about the Quran, it's quite miraculous. Quran is different to many other books. One thing is Arabic is the richest language in the world. There's no doubt about that. If you do a little research, you'll see it, like the English, for example, dictionary has approximately about 600,000 words. They are expressed differently in different, internet websites, but approximately, I can say it's about 600,000 words. Like Turkish language has about 600,000 words as well. It's mixture of course, other languages as well. However, the Quran, the Arabic has 12 million words, more than 12 million words. That's very interesting. Like they have 170 different words for a camel, just for camel, 170 different words. And the way you address people, it depends on who they are. It changes the way you address them. Female, male, if there's one of them, if there's two of them, if there's a group of them, it's always changed. In English, when we walk into a room, we might say hello. It means hello. 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter, male, female. But Arabic is not like that. Depending on who you're addressing, it changes. So it's extremely rich language, but still it's a language. That is why no matter how much you study the Quran, no matter how much you learn about the Quran, you can never say, all right, this is the only meaning, because it's the word of Allah. It could have many different meanings, and many of them probably will be discovered as time passes on, because Quran addresses every era, not just the Prophet's era. And when you look at some of the verses, it was impossible for the people who lived at that time to understand them. For example, Surah Yasin, verse 40. It talks about the sun, the moon, and the stars. And the Quran says all of them follow a certain orbit. And they swim in that course, that has been assigned to them. Very interesting.
Swim is very interesting.
The term swim is very interesting. Like you said, planets, stars, galaxies, heavenly bodies. The Quran says they all swim in their rounded courses, orbits. But why swimming? That's the interesting thing. Well, today we know, after many, many, many hundreds of years, we discovered that, space is not an empty place. We used to say, the emptiness of the space, there's no such a thing as absolute emptiness. Space is not a vacuum. So it's not a vacuum. It's made up of something. But they recently, it's only been like a year or 2 years, they recently discovered this, what we call empty space is like an ocean. It's wavy. It's been discovered. And these waves are called gravitational waves, and we can detect them now. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? So the Quran used the term swim, Yes, so Quran is the pre-eternal translator of the mighty book of the universe. Look, Quran is a book, but the universe is a book as well. That's what he's saying. They're both books. Just as I mentioned, Quran is made up of letters. that we saw that we can understand Arabic letters. So letters come together to form words. Words come together to form sentences. The universe is exactly the same. The letters of the universe are quantum particles. Neutron, proton, electron, neutrino, positron. They are all letters. They're like alphabet. When they come together, they form words, which are the atoms. When they come together, they form sentences, molecules. So universe is like a book for us to read. And the Quran is the translator of it, he says. It is also the post-eternal interpreter of the various tongues reciting the verses of creation. Post-eternal. Interpreter of the various tongues reciting the verses of creation. So everything in the universe, in their own way, are like tongues. They're speaking, maybe not like us, but they are all expressing their submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything speaks in their own way. And the Quran is also a post-eternal interpreter. Verses of creation, this is very interesting too, because there are two types of verses. Verses of revelation, verses of creation. Verses of revelation is the Quran. Verses of creation is what we see in the universe. That is why the Quran uses the term verse. Verse means ayah. Ayah is sign. That's what it means, sign. And it uses it for the Quran itself, but it uses it for the universe too, the Quran. You know, do they not look at the stars above? Do they not look at this, the moon, the sun, that? And the Quran says they are our verses. Again, same term, signs. Because the main objective here is everything in the universe is a sign that takes you to one and only creator. That is the objective, so that we can get to know him. The commentator of the book of the worlds, of the seen and the unseen. So the Quran is like a commentator, a narrator of the book of the worlds, of the seen and the unseen. The seen world and the unseen, because it talks about ghaib as well, the unseen world, eschatology, or things that are beyond physics, metaphysics. The revealer of the treasures of the divine names. So the Quran reveals the treasures of the divine names. As you know, in Islam, or Islamic theology, I should say, in Kalam, we cannot know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself in his essence. It's not possible in Islam. In other religions, they depict God, you know. They imagine him to be sitting somewhere as a throne, you know. We see this all the time, depictions. Or they depict him with, you know, statues and things, various things like that. They assign son to him. Yeah. You look at all the religions, even the monotheistic religions, they have this problem in defining God. But in Islam, God cannot be understood as himself, in his essence, in his that. We call this that. It is impossible. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, the famous beloved friend of the Prophet, he says, not comprehending you is comprehension. Not comprehending you is comprehension. He defined it that way because it's impossible to comprehend Allah. So to cite an example that we use all the time, you know, if we wanted to study the sun, for example, it's about 150 million kilometers from us. It's huge, the sun. It's a star, of course. Medium sequence star, we call it. They have a lifespan of about 10 billion years, our sun. It's already halfway now. If we wanted to study the sun, there are three ways we can do it. Yeah? One, we travel to it. It is not possible. as you get there, you'll start melting and burning. That's it. You have no choice. You no chance. Sorry. The other way is we bring the sun to us, which is not possible. And the third, we look at its rays, its light, and we study its light, reflections of its light. Then we get information about how the sun works, isn't it? I said you can't go to the sun. Maybe you can go at night, brother. Did I say that? Anyway, so we study its rays and we get an idea what it's made up of, how it works, which, let us say, particles it's made up of. And we have a very, very good idea of it. Science have, worked this out. We know that the sun is mainly made up of hydrogen, which is the lightest element. And helium is the second element there because it works by, what we call fusion, nuclear fusion at its core. It binds the hydrogen atoms together to form helium atoms. And during this fusion process, it releases energy. And that's how life continues on Earth. We need that energy. So this is how we learn about the sun. So in regards to, it's only a metaphor, but in regards to learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Islamic theology has a methodology as well. Just like we cannot travel to God, hasha, because we cannot give a direction to God. He is not within space-time. We cannot bring God to us either. And that would be anthropomorphism, turning God into a human-like creature, which some people do, some religions do. That is impossible to in Islamic theology. So the third option, we study his names and attributes. Just like the sun reflects its light on every object, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and attributes are reflected on everything in the universe. Living, non-living, everything. We can see the name Qudra, Qadir, reflecting on everything. We can see the name Irada, will, is reflecting everywhere. Rahman, Rahim, all of these names, Sani Zul Jalal. So we can see the reflections and then we can get to know. That is the best way to know Allah. And who teaches us this? It is the Quran, the book. The Quran teaches us. And the Quran gives us information about both the unseen and the seen. And it reveals to us the divine names hidden in the heavens and on the earth, the key to truths concealed beneath the lines of events, because sometimes events are confusing to us. We say, why does this happen? Why does this happen? But in reality, everything has a hikmah, wisdom. Everything, I remember one person was arguing, I was saying that the universe is a deterministic place. Meaning that because the Quran says, Inna kulla shay'in khalaqnahu biqadar. We have created everything with due measure, precision. And I said, there is a harmony, there is order in the universe. And these people who don't believe, they're disbelievers, they say, no, there's chaos in the universe. I say, give me one sign of chaos. So look at for example, the solar system. Look at the way all the planets are aligned, Mathematically, without even testing the planets, I can guarantee you this, you can work out how fast each planet should be spinning or orbiting the sun. You know that? It's physics. Ercüment. Yeah? We know that Mercury is closest to the sun, which means it has to be spinning the fastest to protect itself from the gravity of the sun. So it's got to spin faster. There's a proportion there. There's a calculation between two masses, the way they attract each other. So Venus should be spinning the second fastest. Yeah? Earth should be spinning the third fastest. You can mathematically calculate this. They have, and then they measured it. That's exactly the way it is. It is harmony. There's order there. And I was explaining this person about these things. He goes, you say there is order, but he goes, every year the earth moves away from the sun, very small thing, a few centimeters or a few millimeters, it moves away from the sun. So it's chaos. And I said to him, it moves away from the sun, not because of chaos, again, because of laws of physics. It's called sunnatullah. Why? Because the sun continuously producing energy. It's like spitting, I should say, plasma into the universe, into space, I should say.
It gets lighter.
It gets lighter. It's losing mass. As the sun loses mass, its pull gets weaker on us. So, of course, automatically, according to physics, we are going to move away slowly. But it's not chaos, because by the time we move to a distance where there can be no life on Earth, it will be about 5 billion years. So what are you worried about? There is no chaos there. It's all calculated. It is all, it's astronomy. Yeah. So, yes, the key to the truths concealed beneath the lines of events, the tongue of the unseen world, Gaib, in the manifest world. So the unseen world manifests in the world as well. The treasury of the post-eternal favors of the most merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His treasury is endless, and he is the most merciful. And of the pre-eternal addresses of that most holy one that come from the world of the unseen beyond the veil of this manifest world. So, yes, Allah cannot be seen. If anyone claims that they see Allah, they are lying. They are lies. It's impossible. Cannot be seen. It cannot be seen in your dreams either. There is no such a thing. Some people come, I've seen God. No, you haven't seen God. You've seen something that you imagined in your own mind. Fahrettin Razi, the great Mufassir, he says that people who do tashbih means the group is called mushabbiha. They are anthropomorphists. They give shape, human-like shape to God. He says that people who do tashbih have never in truth believed in Allah. They only believe in a God that they produce in their own imagination. They make up this God in their imagination and they believe in that, he says.
Hinduism.
Hey?
Hinduism, maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like, in Buddhism, Hinduism, they're all very fits this description, but in some ways even Christianity, because they say Jesus is God. So that fits only the ones who believe in Trinity, So it fits into that category too. But within Islam, in the past, there was a school, which is not the mainstream. They were also mushabbiha. They gave anthropomorphic qualities to God too. They derived it from the Qur'an. They said, in the Qur'an, God says he has a hand, he has eyes, things like that. And they took it literally. They said, if he says, then he has it. They don't look at other verses. Most of the Quranic verses. And today, maybe one of the biggest problems with, when we talked the other day, I did a video on Dajjal, yeah? And most of the problems today arises from technology and social media. Everyone is an expert in Islam. I explained it there. I gave this as the example. I knew people were still going to make silly comments underneath it, and they did. Even though I cautioned them, they still do it.
Maybe they didn't watch the video.
Maybe just looked at the name, maybe. It's very interesting. It's very interesting because I gave this example. I said, if you have a toothache, you go to the dentist. You don't go to a mechanic, car mechanic. Can you pull this out? Stupid. So you go to an expert. When it comes to religion, everyone is an expert. Where's the scholarship? You study one, for example, discipline, like I did that Kader video. It took me 7 years of research to write that book, write that thesis, 7 years. I studied the Greek philosophy, I studied the Western philosophy, I studied the Eastern philosophy, right? Eastern as well, I looked at the Islamic scholars, all of them, especially on this topic. I started it from Imam Abu Hanifa to Shahristani, Nesefi, Bakillani, Maturidi, Ashari. I looked at all of their views so I can write something, logical based on the scholarly views. And then someone comes underneath the video, you're wrong. It's crazy because everyone thinks they're expert. And the problem is because this is the world of the Dajjal anyway. That, some people think Dajjal is this 40-foot man with a one eye on the center of his forehead, Cyclops, grabbing people, putting them in hell or something like that. No, Dajjal is an ideology. It's an ideology. And it's happening now. It's happening now because there is so much misleading information, so much on social media. And it's confusing people, unfortunately, because no one is going and studying religion. That is why the Prophet said one of the signs of Qiyamah is religious knowledge will disappear. It's very interesting. Religious knowledge will disappear. Why? As I said, because everyone knows everything. Very interesting. You can go and type it into a thing, ChatGPT, it'll give you that answer too. Qur'an cannot be imitated because it has many different sides to its miraculous, wordings. It is not just about sentences. I mentioned, I think the other day to someone, I have a friend, I think Francesco it was, I have a friend in America, he's a cryptologist. They designed the thing, numbers on, credit cards and all of these things. They're specialists in making, those numbers, make them so they are encrypted. He found, this miraculousness in the Quran. He says, you cannot imitate it, he goes. There is cryptology in the Quran, he says. You cannot imitate it. He sent me the file as well, showing how it is. So there's many ways of it, I mentioned one very simple thing, the other day in one video. The people who say Prophet Muhammad wrote the Quran himself, there's some people accuses him of that these days. Nobody accused him those days, even his enemies. But today, these people coming up with it. And I gave them one example. Now, we all know that the term day, Yawm, day, is mentioned in the Quran 365 times. There are 365 days in a year, yeah? If Prophet Muhammad, Hasha, wrote the Quran himself, he would not put 365. He would put 355 or 54. Why? Because they use the lunar calendar, not the solar calendar. The miracle is there, so obvious. And there's information there it was impossible for him to know. Impossible. That's why Quran is so miraculous. Surah Ma'arij, verse 4. If you read it, you'll see that it's Einstein's special theory of relativity. It's there, very clear. Einstein says, when with velocity, time slows down. Time slows down. At the speed of light, time stops. Time stops. Like if you wanted to travel from Earth to the closest star, except the sun, our sun, it's Alpha Centauri. Proxima Centauri is the closest one out of the system there. It's 4.2 light years away. If you go with the speed of light, that's 4.2 years, yeah? It'll take you 4 years to get there. But if you actually travel with the speed of light, for you, leaving here and getting there is the same distance. Time does not pass at all. distance disappears when you're at the speed of light. It's a very interesting thing. For the observer, for us, it takes 4 years for that space shuttle to get there. But for the people inside the shuttle, instant, they're there. That's very interesting. What does the Quran say? Surah Ma'arij, verse 4. 1,400 or 300, 1,300 years before Einstein. It says, the angels and the spirit, Jibril, angel Jibril, ascend to him in one day, which is 50,000 of your years. Special relativity. See, the observer effect. The Quran says, for you, 50,000 years passes, but for the angels, one day passes. That means they are traveling very close to the speed of light. Not at the speed of light. Somebody, one physicist friend of mine, mathematician as well, he made the calculation. The number comes up as very close to the speed of light, not the exact speed of light.
But under.
Just under, like 299,000.9999 something over second. The velocity. The Quran. How are you going to deny the Quran? So it is the instructor of the world of humanity. It instructs us, it guides us to salvation. The light and water of Islam, the true wisdom of mankind, and the true guide and leader, urging humanity to prosperity and happiness. The Quran wants us to attain that eternal happiness. Allah wants us to do this as well. That is why it's in the Quran. It's His words. It is both a book of law, a book of prayer, a book of wisdom, and a book of worship, and a book of command and summons, and a book of invocation, and a book of thought. It is a unique, comprehensive, sacred book comprising many books to which recourse may be had for the needs of all mankind. So it answers the needs of all of mankind and other beings too in the universe. It is a revealed scripture resembling a sacred library that offers treatises suitable for all the various ways and different paths of all the saints and the veracious ones and the wise and the learned, which is appropriate for illuminations of each way, and it enlightens and is suitable for the course of each path and depicts it. Look at the aspects of the Quran. Everything is in there. It's squeezed. That is why you get these scholars, unique scholars, they get one verse from the Quran, they write a 1,000-page book. One verse, explaining a one verse. Like in this İşaretül İcaz, I will continue next week. Like Bediüzzaman Said Nursi explains Fatiha, Suretul Fatiha. It's a short surah, but you will see the many things he derives from it. That's Quran. Since the Quran has come from the sublime throne, Arsh of Allah, the greatest name, and from the highest degree of each name, it is Allah's word in regard to His being Lord and Sustainer, which is Rabb, Governor of all the worlds. It is a divine decree through His title of God, the Creator, Ilah, and all beings. It is an address in the name of the Creator of the heavens and the earth. So it is a message sent by the Almighty Creator through Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. That is why in one part of the Risale he says there are three things that allow us to recognize our Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran, the universe, and Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. because Quran authorizes the Prophet to explain to us about the Quran and the universe as well. So it is an address in the name of the creator of the heavens and the earth. It is a conversation in respect of absolute dominicality, which we call rububiyat, because Allah did not just create the universe, put it on automatic and everything just works by itself. No, Allah is governing it continuously. Rububiyya, we call this rububiyya. If he was not constantly governing it, the universe would collapse immediately. Immediately. It is a pre-eternal discourse on account of universal divine sovereignty. It is a notebook of the favors of the merciful from the point of view of all-embracing, all-encompassing divine mercy. It is a collection of addresses at the start of which are certain ciphers related to the tremendous of divine majesty. There is codes in there that we need to decipher. Some high-level scholars, they decipher these codes. And through its descent from the comprehensiveness of the greatest name, it is a holy scripture full of wisdom that looks to and inspects all sides of the sublime throne, which is Arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's Maghrib time for us. So inshallah, I will stop there and we will continue next week. I want to continue with İşaretül İcaz. Yeah. Thank you everyone for participating, inshallah.